everybody? Welcome in to Load the Box. I'm your host, Jordan Hawthorne. I'm joined, as always, by the marvelous and the wonderful Jack Day, who is on this side of me, and I'm gonna have to legit get a cutout of you and put it over there, so that way I'm like, hey, Jack's over there. But and it can really scare me late at night whenever I'm trying to play video games or something. But I'm joined by Jack, the marvelous and wonderful. I think I already said that. It's been tough. No show last week. Video went up on the YouTube channel of me just giving some thoughts about how Mike Zimmer stole my joy as a football fan, and that still holds true even after a win. 2-3 team going into Carolina. We'll see what happened. Chris Paxitas is reminding me that I'm supposed to be wearing a Browns polo right now, and I completely forgot about that. So hopefully my wife hears me and throws it down, and I can go do a quick change off screen here in a second. But if not, then I'll do I don't know. I'll just wear it the rest of the season, I guess. But Jack, it's been 2 weeks since we talked on the air. I think we've talked a lot through text about this team. It's almost like a relative has died. A shared friend has passed away, the way that we're texting, and we're so somber, and it's so sad. So how you been? How you been, man?
Yeah, it's weird talking about this. I feel like the energy level is way different just because, and the Vikings are coming off of a win too. So it's weird that we're in this position, and it's even weirder to me because the Detroit Lions, I think, to start the show off, I think you have to give credit where credit is due. The Detroit Lions have proven week in and week out they play with heart. They find a way to claw their way back into every single game that they've been in. Like, they shouldn't be an 0-5 football team if it wasn't for Justin Tucker hitting a record-setting field goal that took the league by storm that weekend. Like, that was the highlight that was playing all over ESPN, all over everywhere, and it's always against the Lions. And then the Vikings do the same thing with the 54, 55-yard field goal, whatever it was. Granted, it shouldn't have been. I don't think it should have gotten to that point. But the Vikings, at the end of the day, they hit the field goal, which is absurd. I don't think either of us are probably feeling too good when Greg Joseph was lining up for that field goal, especially coming off of he hits a 54 or 55 yarder. Then the next one's a 49 yarder, and he decides to leave that one short, and then he just buries the next one. That's another 50 plus yard field goal. That was weird, but there's still just areas of this football team where I think fans, anyone that watches this team right now, it's frustrating because we talked about this revamped run defense that was supposed to show up. And I think Sunday was the 12th consecutive week in a row that the Vikings have allowed 100 plus rushing yards on the ground. And I think DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams are good running backs, but I think they totaled 108 yards combined. That's 108 yards with, I think it was pretty much in the first half, a little bit into the second half, because the second half, the game script flipped and they had to start throwing the ball. I don't think the Vikings are really showing signs. Zimmer talked about improvements in his run defense in his press conference today. I'm not seeing that. I don't think you're seeing that. And then just flipping to the other side of the ball, Justin Jefferson, I said this on my show yesterday too. Justin Jefferson, to me right now, it's impossible to leave him out of the top 5 conversation with wide receivers across the NFL. Justin Jefferson is continuing to prove that he is a dominant force. I think there's one other, or this was before this game, but there's one wide receiver graded higher than him, according to PFF, and it was Davante Adams. And I think you and I know we've gone a little bit back and forth. I think you're a little bit slightly lean towards D-Hop, if I'm remembering correctly. But Davante Adams, in my opinion, is the number 1 wide receiver in the National Football League. And it just Justin Jefferson being in the same category. We saw it against Detroit. No one could stop him. We saw it against Cleveland. If he just ran straight and Cousins delivered a dime, he was going to come up with the football. Like, that has to be a recipe for this team. It can't just be, hey, Delvin Cook. Delvin Cook wasn't even in this game, and they still decided to game plan similarly with Alexander Mattison. And we were talking about Alexander Mattison against the Seahawks being a very competent and really good backup running back. But it's frustrating to watch this recipe stay the exact same when you're watching Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson go off. I know Kirk Cousins didn't have the greatest game. JJ had like 105 yards in the first half, and he didn't see a target until like late into the fourth quarter. Like, that is absurd to me when you have, I know Dalvin Cook is a top 3, top 5 running back too, but use that to your advantage. Use both of them. I feel like I'm going to sneeze, so if I do, I apologize. Use both of them to open up lanes for each other. And then on the other side of Justin Jefferson, you have Adam Thielen, who had a total of 3 targets in this game. Are you kidding me? I mean, that is one of the best 3-headed monsters in the NFL, in my opinion, with Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook. Kirk Cousins is more than good enough to deliver the ball to those 2 wide receivers, and he can hand the ball off. We've seen what Kirk Cousins can do with play action. I told you I wasn't going to rant that much today, but that is clearly changing. My final little nugget from this game too, and then I'll let you get some words in. Play Christian Darrisaw. My God.
Yes.
Like, it doesn't make sense to me now at this point. Like, if we're going to do this flip-flopping back and forth stuff, stop it. Just put him out there. It was, I think the PFF grades came back, and him and Rashad Hill graded out rather similarly. But Rashad Hill has been in the league for 7 or 8 years, and that was his first, Christian Darrisaw's first game in the National Football League, and he's playing at that same level. He's going to be just fine. Like, I know he has a long ways to go, and he needs to get into football shape. What better way of getting him into football shape than getting him on the football field? And you don't take players in the first round and ease them into the offense or defense. I think the Vikings tried to do that with Justin Jefferson last year. Look what happened in week 3 when he exploded onto the season, or the scene, as a rookie. It doesn't make sense to me. Darrisaw was looked at as a top 15 pick. The Vikings got lucky, traded back, acquired some more picks, got him with the 23rd overall pick, used your first round pick. That offensive line didn't look spectacular against a subpar Detroit Lions defensive line. Get him out there. At this point, the Vikings are 2-3. You have to see what you have in Christian Darrisaw, because if for some reason he shows out and he's not a good football player, that's a massive glaring hole going into 2022.
Well, I think that there are two. I'm going to go the Mike Zimmer out here to talk about Christian Darrisaw. And it's this, he's a rookie. He has to own his way. The veteran wins the job by default, blah, blah, blah. I hate that. I hate that so much. It's one of the many arguments that I'm going to be making from now until the end of the season for why Mike Zimmer needs to be shown the dough and why he needs to be, he's a thief of joy. Secondly, he has this bad mentality about rookies. This is the stat I care about the most with Christian Darrisaw and Rashad Hill. How many times has Christian Darrisaw been pancaked, just completely obliterated by a pass rusher? It's 0. And I know he hasn't played, but still, Rashad Hill is continuing to just get embarrassed by pass rushers. He had a good, solid first, 2-3 weeks of the season where I think we were kind of scheming to protect him. And then the second we don't throw him some help, Myles Garrett embarrasses him. Last week, I don't even remember who it was that was embarrassing him on Detroit. But, he had multiple plays where he just one-handed stiff arm to the ground. Terrible play by Rashad Hill. We saw it coming. We all said Rashad Hill should not be playing. Hopefully Darrisaw can become Superman, rehab his hamstring, and then get into the lineup against Cincinnati so that way we don't have to see Rashad Hill play. But, that's it. Here we are 5 weeks into the season and Rashad Hill is still the starter. And then the second point, which I hate that we're not starting him because he's a rookie, the second real point is it's the offensive line, man. It's a unit that thrives on chemistry and longevity. You hear it all the time. Around Thanksgiving, there's always teams that get the stats thrown up. This is their 16th offensive line combination this season because of injuries or bad play or whatever the case may be. He's not a pass rusher. He's not a wide receiver. Offensive line is not a rotational position. It is you set it, and that's your wall that you've decided to build. So I've never heard personally of we're going to rotate in a left tackle in a game. Maybe that's a disrespect on Detroit. Maybe they thought they could get away with it and just kind of ease him in against Detroit and then go and stout him against Carolina, because I do think he's stouting against Carolina. I think that it's time. But I don't understand the rotation idea. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. And if they did go into the game thinking, well, it's Detroit, we can slide in Hill, do 50-50 snaps with Hill and Deosol, then fire everyone. Fire everybody right now. And if Deosol ends up being bad, then fire Rick Spielman because, okay, Brad Bailey's not looking great. Now Deosol doesn't look good. So I don't know. I'm still and I have a lot of intense hatred in my heart right now just for the Vikings because they're making me so angry, even in wins. But they were playing on Sunday in the second half. Like you mentioned, Justin Jefferson was having an insane day, looked amazing in the first half. And then they come out and they were acting like they were up 5 possessions against Detroit with some of the play calling, just how conservative it was. At one point, they decided to call that little fake overhead snap, direct snap to Madison on a 3rd down and 5. And it went nowhere because it fooled no one. Because I know Kirk Cousins did musicals in high school, but he's not that good of an actor. So the play calling continues to be something that needs to be hammered on. Oh my God. I don't want to fire anybody in season because I don't think the next guy is on this coaching staff right now. I think this is a ride it out to the end of the year. If I had to predict it right now, looking at the Vikings schedule, 500. Well, you can't go 500 anymore. So maybe a game above or under 500, but hovering right around 500, maybe floating with the playoffs. They don't make it. Everyone's canned. It's rebuild time. Trade everybody away. And it sucks because in 2 or 3 years we're going to be looking back and we're going to be saying, "Wow, Adam Thielen was so good, and now he's on his way out, and we wasted him. He had 2 playoff wins with Mike Zimmer, but we had this elite wide receiver in him and Diggs and Jefferson. Jefferson, I don't think will be wasted if we replace the coach, but him and Diggs just got wasted because we had a head coach that demanded that we just hand the ball off 50 times a game and only throw it in 3rd and long situations. So even though the Vikings won, their defense their defense didn't do it, but the team blew a 10-point lead late in the game. Like Jack alluded to, we missed a kick that we should have made. And then we made a kick that we should have won, but I don't want to talk about the special teams because that's
banned.
Yeah, no,
we're done with that.
Absolutely. So somehow the Vikings got 3 points at the end of the game to win, but oh man, like you said, we could rant probably for 6 hours about this team at this point. I don't know. We talked before the show. You maybe are still on the Mike Zimmer might still be the head coach guy. I'm 100% off of it. I am fully ready to call in Daboll, call in Bieniemy, call in Joe Brady. So maybe this is a scouting trip for Rick Spielman in Carolina to see how Joe Brady's offense looks against Mike Zimmer's defense. So I don't know. We'll see what happens in Carolina. I want to do game balls and whatnot, but I'm almost ready to just talk about Carolina because that was the most frustrating win.
We can get to that. I'll give a couple more thoughts here. And I just want to say, too, I wouldn't necessarily say I'm still on the Zimmer train. I'm on the Zimmer train for this season. Yeah. Like you just said, I don't think it's a good decision to necessarily fire him. Mike Zimmer still, he says it week in and week out, he still believes he has a good football team. Let him prove it. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? If this team struggles, they're going to actually have a chance at a high draft pick for once, something they never have because they're always, always, always mediocre. After Carolina, after the bye, this schedule gets absolutely brutal for the Vikings. It's not going to be easy. There's Vikings fans that all offseason long we're getting into with Chargers fans, or I'll say Chargers fan, I guess I can say instead of fans. But Chargers fans have a lot to be excited for. They have arguably one of the top MVP candidates right now, in my opinion. Justin Herbert is absolutely balling out. That doesn't look like a game that everyone was looking at prior to the season as a winnable game in my eyes anymore. A lot of these games are starting to flip. Lamar Jackson just exploded in the MVP conversation after that game on Monday night. Like, the Vikings still have a very long road. And if they win some of these games, I think we're going to be having a different conversation in a couple of weeks because the Vikings are going to be beating legitimate playoff contenders. But right now, we just have to get through Carolina before we can get to that and get into the bye. Everyone knows what the track record is with the Vikings coming out of the bye. So, that's where I'm at with Mike Zimmer. But a couple things, and then we can wrap up the Detroit game. I want to end on a couple positive notes because there were some cool things from that game. Everson Griffin continues. I tweeted something out, and I thought this was just me being kind of a wise, just tweeting this, but I was like, as everyone expected, Everson Griffin is the biggest free agency signing that the Vikings made this season, which it was one of the last minute signings that they had. It's not as shiny as Patrick Peterson or what Bashaud Breeland was supposed to be, or Xavier Woods, Delvin Tomlinson. But right now, he's really one of the only guys that sticks out when you turn the film on. Everson Griffin is balling out right now. He's providing that spark with that old spin move that I know you and I both missed very badly. So that's cool seeing Everson Griffin provide a spark for this defense again. Eric Kendricks, that interception might go down as one of the catches of the year, honestly. And it was from a middle linebacker, which you just don't see. We know Eric Kendricks is elite in coverage. He's one of the best coverage linebackers in the National Football League. But to be able to have the ball skills like that and snag a pick with just one hand, it'd be impressive. I mean, if Justin Jefferson or Adam Thielen made that catch, I think people would be going nuts. But it was Eric Kendricks that made that interception. So wanted to shed some light on that. And I think that just about wraps it up. I mean, Justin Jefferson, like we talked about, had a hell of a day. Feed that man. He is always open. Get him the ball as frequently as possible. And we know Kirk Cousins can do that. He's good enough. He did it last year. Let Justin Jefferson get open downfield and start to open this offense up a little bit, because I'll tell you what, this will be my final thought on the Detroit game. I'm tired of feeling like I could fall asleep during a Vikings game. I haven't felt like that in many, many, many years. And the Browns game and the Lions game, just to put this into perspective, I was in the stadium for the Browns game, and I still had the same feeling. My eyes were starting to get kind of watery, and like they felt dry. Like I was about ready to fall asleep for both of these last games. I'm sick of that. Open this offense up, make things entertaining again. And if you do that, maybe the offense starts to click, and maybe the defense is turning around at the right time.
Yeah, speaking on the Kendricks interception, and I don't know why my brain immediately went to this play, but do you remember when Laquan Treadwell had that like ridiculous one-handed sideline catch a couple years ago, and everyone was like, it was like his contract deal too, so everyone was like, what? Like everyone was just blown away by it. It reminded me so much of that, just the way that like it wasn't a lot of times one-handed catches are like you catch it and bring it into your body. Like, and it's still kind of loose, the ball still kind of is moving in your hand. No, it was like it hit his gloves and stopped. And I think that goes a long way into speaking to Nike's and Adidas's sticky glove formula that they have. But it was a really good interception from, for my money, the best linebacker in football. But I don't know. Is Kendricks the Cousins of the defense? Is Kendricks that he just needs more help guy, but for the defense? Because it feels like he just needs more help.
I think defense is a lot different, because I think a quarterback can elevate an offense a lot more than the only position, in my opinion, that can truly elevate a defense, like if you're starting over from scratch, it's either a quarterback that you draft, a left tackle you draft, or a pass rusher, in my opinion. Like those are the three biggest impact positions. It's a lot of fun having Eric Kendricks on this football team and having one of the best middle linebackers in the National Football League. But I think there's quite a few more important positions on the field. And I mean, he certainly could use the help. I think there's a lot of areas. I mean, he's always leading this team in tackles. And the week that I say that, I'm pretty sure Harrison Smith actually led the team in tackles against Detroit. But him and Anthony Barr are supposed to be this elite duo. And I'm not going to – there's people saying like, oh, look at this play that Anthony Barr missed. It's like, yo, the guy hasn't played football in 17, 18 months. Let him get back out there and get a feel for it again. I'm not ready to say like he had a couple good plays too. Like it's Anthony Barr. I still have faith that he's going to turn things around, but it's worrisome that this front four can't get a legitimate push. If they have Michael Pierce and Delvin Tomlinson in, and the Vikings are still struggling against the run with Anthony Barr and Eric Kendricks back there, that's big yikes. Oh, yeah, I don't know what to think of that.
It's definitely again, and this season is so much. I mean, everything is like, in my opinion anyway, it is okay. The Wilf spent a lot of money on you guys and on the defense, and you guys promised us it was going to be good. And 5 weeks in, the defense it's looked better. I will give it credit, but you still continue. My God, how does Bashaud Breeland have a job not even with the taunting the fans and whatever. That wasn't anything to me. Here, let me get my which way do I need to go? This way. Let me get both my hands in here. Like, calling for the boos, I was like, oh my God, he's taunting the fans. Like, that's terrible. I mean, whatever. But then he starts talking about his Johnson going in people's mouths, and I'm like, I'm not clutching my pearls because I'm a vulgar man. I don't, show it on the show, and I don't tweet it from the Twitter account, but my world, like, that was... For a football player to tweet that at the fans, and then for Zimmo to be like, oh, he was talking to the media because the media asked him about being bad. And it's like, he tried to blame Chris Thomason, or Thomason, however you pronounce his name, for Bashaud Breeland talking about, putting his pee-pee places. Like, this season's getting wild. I wanted to stay away from it, but I have to.
The Vikings, the NFL really, really messed up on not doing the in-season Hard Knocks on the Minnesota Vikings.
Would have been great.
I think that would have kept me awake a little bit more for the last couple of games.
I don't know
knowing that.
Oh, go ahead.
I haven't watched it, but I was just going to touch on I was going to say, for the sake of this football team moving forward and this year, Cameron Dancer's got to play.
Yes.
He's the only cornerback on the roster next year outside of like Chris Boyd and Harrison Hand. What are the Vikings going to do next year if Patrick Peterson, I know Bashaud Breeland has struggled, but if they walk and Mackenzie Alexander walks, I think Alexander was a 1-year deal too. If they all walk, that's all you have. You have to get him reps. And on top of that, he's looked a lot better than Bashaud Breeland as well.
Yeah, the whole thing, I don't know if you follow the Rough and Rowdy, like it's Barstool's, like they put up citizens to box each other thing. And like Pac-Man Jones did one. Bashaud Breeland is headed for Rough and Rowdy fame because he's going to fight some Vikings fan. And the Vikings fan's going to start, showing up with, 108 out of 108. Or I think it's 103. I think I wasn't wearing my glasses when I saw that stat, because now everybody says it's 103. So I'm going to correct that.
It was 108. He bumped.
It was?
After the Detroit game, he had a better performance against the Lions, so he slid up a marvelous 5 spots.
Wow, so he's no longer the worst corner in the NFL.
Correct.
The worst one probably plays for the Chiefs. I was watching that Chiefs game, and I was like... Send him to the Kansas City for a 7th-round pick in 2030.
It's a 7th-round pick, and Vikings will take Mike Hughes back in return.
I'd take that deal. No, he'd get hurt as soon as he came back to Minnesota. He would. But yeah. So getting off of the Johnson talk, that game was a big bag of Johnsons in my opinion. The Vikings offense, like I said, wasn't very good. Defense played better. A win's a win. We're 2-3. Let's move on to Carolina, because if the team doesn't get to 500, there might be a head coaching change. This schedule gets, like Jack alluded to, schedule gets brutal going after the bye. I think it goes Dallas, Baltimore, Chargers. Those are the 3 games, and then I think it's Green Bay after that. So that's a month of football where it's like, we could realistically lose 4 straight games after the bye, and then maybe get a bounce-back win against Chicago. But, who knows what's going to happen if their defense continues to play well. So,
and God forbid Justin Fields starts to light things up, because that's just going to be icing on the cake for Vikings fans.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Whenever we could have traded up. But, hey, look, if Darisaul's good and Fields is good, I'll be okay. I'll be like, okay, we did whatever. But Kellen Mond is every bit as good as Justin Fields. I guarantee it. Stout him now. But let's move into let's do game balls really quickly. I don't know who has what. I'm gonna give my defensive game ball to Everson Griffin because it's obvious, and I'll let you do the offense because the offense is bad.
Yeah, I think it has to be given to Justin Jefferson. I think he's the clear-cut guy this week. I know Alexander Madison had a decent day on the ground as well, but he had a fumble that quite literally should have cost the Vikings the entire game, and it would have been 2 fumbles out of 5 games late in the game that costed the Minnesota Vikings a football game. I think it's Justin Jefferson. He still finished with, I have the stat sheet up here. I don't know exactly what it was.
It was 124.
124, 7 catches, averaging 17.7 yards a catch. No touchdowns, but that's insane. And 105 of those yards came in a half of football. He was on pace to have a 210-yard day, and the Vikings offense just kind of went into coward mode, and they hid the rest of the second half. They didn't want to throw the football. They didn't want to be exciting. they wanted to put Jordan and myself to sleep. They almost did. They found a way to stick it out and I can't even speak. They found a way to get to 2-3, and we're saying that keeps their season alive, but I don't know if it's even fair to say that with the schedule that's upcoming. But there's only one way to find out, and that's going to have to be to continue to watch this dreadful Vikings team.
Yeah.
I say dreadful for now because they have had some entertaining weeks, like the Arizona game, the Seattle game. I think even the Cincinnati game was on and off. Like the offense was entertaining for the first 3 weeks of the season, and then it's vanished. It's completely gone out the door the last 2 weeks.
And I wonder how much of that, and we don't have to spend too much time on this because I want to move on to Carolina, but I do wonder how much of that is Mike Zimmer being, like, oh, the offense, you threw the ball too much. My defense was out there for too long. They got tired, and that's why we, what didn't look as good in overtime or in the fourth quarter. I wonder if that plays into it, or if it's maybe the league got some tape on what Kubiak wanted to do. And now that he's called them, 3 weeks worth of games, they caught up, and all of a sudden they're not doing so well. I don't know. Maybe he's out of tricks to reach into and whatever. But Vikings look like a 9-7 team, says Chris Land in the chat, and it's about where I just pegged them. Would be, I would say, 9-8, 8-9, somewhere in that range of 500. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Moving into the Carolina game, Jack, I'm going to let you do the injury report. Kind of tell us what Wednesday looks like. Obviously, it's Wednesday. A lot can change. But I think the key to this is what's going on with the running backs, because if they're both healthy, this is going to be intriguing for fantasy football fans everywhere.
Yeah, let me get this pulled up here quickly because the injury report is not ideal. And I suppose I should probably pull up the Panthers along with it here, but the Vikings I have in the back of my mind here. But the Vikings have Dalvin Cook was limited, and then Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, Everson Griffin, and Anthony Barr. None of those guys practiced today, and I know you said it's Wednesday, so it is Wednesday. A lot can change. A lot theoretically should change from now on Thursday, but here's the full. Alexander Mattison did not practice. Adam Thielen did not practice. Justin Jefferson did not practice. Anthony Barr did not practice. Michael Pierce did not practice. Everson Griffin did not practice. Amir Smith-Marset was limited. CJ Ham was limited. Dalvin Cook was limited. And Harrison Smith was limited. Nick Vigil was a full participant. Harrison Smith and Everson Griffin were both labeled as veteran resting days. So that's not too worrisome. I'm not seeing the Panthers though on this report where they usually pop up.
Well, the biggest one is I'm seeing Chris Land is saying Christian McCaffrey is considered 50-50 on whether he's going to play. So right now it's a toss of a coin.
Yeah, we can kind of speak on that because I think that's the biggest one that most Vikings fans are going to want to hear about. This could be, if both of them are healthy enough to go, this would be a matchup of arguably 2 top 3 running backs in the National Football League. I think Dalvin Cook and McCaffrey, I'm pretty sure they both came in the league the same year. I think they were both drafted in 2017, I believe. And I think since Christian McCaffrey has gotten hurt, it's really exposed that Panthers offense. That Sam Darnold hasn't been able to do the things that he wants to be able to do. And that offense is built similar to the Vikings. It's built around Christian McCaffrey. The Vikings are built around Dalvin Cook. I don't agree with that anymore. I think it should be built around Justin Jefferson, but you can rewind the show 10, 15 minutes if you want to hear me rant about that again. So the Vikings, on the other hand, it's a lengthy injury report. And I talked about the 3-headed monster 10, 15 minutes ago on the show as well. And all of them are banged up right now. Justin Jefferson and Thielen did not practice. And they say Dalvin Cook is limited. Dalvin Cook has been kind of on and off limited the last couple of weeks, and he still hasn't played. I think Dalvin could end up being a game time decision as well. That's all speculation for the most part, and that's all we can really do because we're not at TCO Performance Center kind of seeing the healing process and the talking. But usually the Wednesday injury report, a lot changes from Wednesday to Thursday. Usually, even I think Friday is the big one because that's when they release who's questionable, who's out, and yada yada yada. The weird one for me is Anthony Barr. I'm hopeful that is more so because it's listed as a knee injury. So I'm hoping it's just they're like, hey, you had and he said it in his press conference on Monday or Tuesday, whatever it was. He was like, he said he felt like bleep. That's exactly what he said to reporters. He's like, I think he said he felt like he got hit by a bus or something along those lines. He's like, it's just playing a full game of football is a whole different game on someone's body, and not playing for 17, 18 months and then going back in and playing. He said there was times where he, like, I think he said this too. There was times in the game where he just felt like his body was going to completely stop working after he made a play. And it's like, that just shows you how like physical this game actually is. And hopefully Anthony Barr can go, especially if Christian McCaffrey is going to go, because he needs to kind of get in a good football shape, like we alluded to. And if he's going up against Christian McCaffrey, he's going to be hard to stop. The Vikings are ranked, I think, 4th. So that'd be 28th or 29th in the league in terms of yards per carry for opposing running backs, which is clearly a not rebuilt rush defense,
No,
if
not
I
at
must
all.
say so myself. But
No.
that wraps up. Sorry, I'm dropping my pen here, but that wraps up the injury report for the most part. Like I said, I don't have the Panthers yet. I can kind of look for that if you want to.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thoughts on
Chris Land is in the chat. I think he's trying to make us feel better about the Vikings, saying that Sam Darnold's coming back to earth. He doesn't. Chris Land doesn't think Christian McCaffrey is going to play on Sunday, and then he's also providing the stats about how Sam Darnold is the worst quarterback in the NFL once he has to get off of his first read. So those are interesting stats, seeing guys going through progressions and whatnot. And Sam Darnold, I would argue, didn't get a lot of time to go through reads and make good choices when he was playing for the Jets. Probably developed some bad habits. And I didn't buy into Carolina whenever they were 3-0. I at this point, I don't trust either of these teams at all. Like, at all. I don't trust. The Vikings could score anywhere between 0 and 70 points on Sunday, and I would be not surprised at all because of how, the offense either looks really good or really bad. On the flip side of that, the Vikings could either lose by 30 or by 50 on Sunday, and I wouldn't be surprised because the defense can't make up its mind. So the team right now just seems so all over the place. They're very hard to figure out. So I guess let's talk about some key matchups, and obviously the Christian McCaffrey one's going to be big. To me, it's the Vikings D line has to start playing better, and I know linebackers play a big part in run defense as well, but the D line has to absorb guys and make sure that those linemen don't get up to block the linebackers, so the linebackers can come in and eat. And man, that D line has not been doing a good job of that this year. So that's my number one matchup of the day is the Vikings defensive line. They have to let Kendricks Vigil and Anthony Barr, if Anthony Barr is able to play, they have to get, they have to let them get in so that way they can stop this running attack, because Chuba Hubbard is no slouch. He's not Christian McCaffrey, but he's a solid running back. At one point, he was projected to be, a top 10, top 15 pick in the draft at coming out of Oklahoma State. So this defensive line just has to plug holes in the middle. But then moving to the outside positions, we got to get Sam Darnold to be seeing ghosts. We got to get him under pressure. We got to get him under fire. And I don't think they're going to have too much of a difficult time doing that. Even against good offensive lines, I think Griffin and Hunter are just, they're going to have their way. And I'm not saying they're going to, have 15 sacks or whatever, some magical number would be. But you've got to start pressuring him. You've got to get him moving, get his legs tired. And then start making him, maybe try and fit some balls in because he knows he's about to get hit. Make him change his throwing motion, do all of that stuff. So if I'm doing a prediction, I would predict that Danielle Hunter gets 2 sacks this week and Everson gets 1. And they just keep doing this little flip-flop dance that they're doing where one of them gets 2 or 3 and the other one gets 1. And but give me, that's what I need to see this week is just that Vikings D-line playing like some of the D-lines that we've seen in the past that have been really, really good. Pat Williams, Kevin Williams, just going back a couple of years where it was Tom Johnson and Everson Griffin and Danielle Hunter and then kind of some swing guys. Linval Joseph. It wasn't a swing guy. It was Linval Joseph. I got to see it. I got to see this line play like it has for most of my life to be impressed. Jack, what's a big matchup that you're looking at?
Yeah, I'm excited to see, especially if McCaffrey doesn't go, is Sam Darnold, what is he going to be able to do against this Vikings secondary? Because I think Carolina has some up-and-coming wide receivers that are – I shouldn't even say up-and-coming. That's mostly when I talk about Terrence Marshall Jr. I like him a lot. He's a rookie out of LSU, and we're starting to see right now that LSU should also be named wide receiver university because Jamar Chase is balling out, Justin Jefferson's balling out, obviously Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry's from there. They sling wide receivers out like it's nothing. So I'm excited to see Terrence Marshall paired up with Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore. I think is pound for pound one of the most underrated wide receivers in the National Football League. Like, he is a stud. And I'm excited. I shouldn't say excited. I'm curious to see what the outcome is like with those guys going up. I think Patrick Peterson has played well. It doesn't seem like teams are targeting his direction, and rightfully so. Why would you when you have a cornerback that is ranked 103 out of 108? So it's really Bashaud Breeland, or if it is Cam Dancer, I'm excited to see who out of those two, like, they're going to have to make some big plays. We haven't really seen that out of Bashaud Breeland. I know he had a nice play, he had a nice tackle and run support on Sunday, but we have to see them start making some plays on the ball in the air. I don't know if we have, it could be wrong. I don't think the Vikings cornerbacks have an interception on the season. I could be wrong on that, but I don't think Dancer does. I know Peterson doesn't. I know Breeland doesn't.
The Conals don't. I know Xavier Woods got one against Arizona, but not a Conal. It's been a safety.
So I want to see the corners. They're matched up against a pretty solid trio of wide receivers. And then switching over to the other side of the ball, I think this Carolina defense is going to be something special. Maybe not quite this year. They've showed flashes of that this year, but they just got Steve Gilmore, and I'm excited to see with him. And then J.C. Horn is the rookie corner that they drafted out of, I believe, of South Carolina, where he went. I'm excited to see what those guys look like. Unfortunately, Vikings fans aren't going to be able to see them, but Vikings fans are going to be able to see one of the up-and-coming young safeties in the league, and Jeremy Chin, who has been balling out. And I'm also curious, it's really, I'm just talking about team secondaries here, but CJ Henderson got traded to that team recently out of Jacksonville. He was a first-round pick out of the University of Florida for the Jaguars.
I liked him a lot.
And they just gave up. Was he a rookie last year?
Yes, he was, because I remember covering him whenever we first started doing mock drafts, and I was pounding the table like CJ Henderson. I think it was like 14 or whenever we picked, and we didn't go with him, but I think he was a top 10 pick. Like, he's not a shabby defensive back. I mean,
I don't remember the last time the Jags weren't in the top 10 either, outside of that one year where Bortles had a magical run where they lost in the AFC Championship game. But yeah, I'm excited to watch Jeremy Chin, and I'm excited to see CJ Henderson. I think Christian McCaffrey is the big name to monitor as the week goes on. But this is going to be, it's two teams fighting to keep their seasons alive right now. I know the Panthers started 3-0. They have a sour taste in their mouths right now. They're 3-2. The Vikings have legitimately been the definition of a roller coaster. That's how their season has gone. And right now they're towards the bottom, and they're not coming back up very drastically like you would hope. This could be a good get right game for the Vikings if they can get back on track, at least go into the bye at 3-3. And I lost my train of thought there a little bit, but if you can get to 3-3, go into the bye, put Mike Zimmer's week after the bye record behind us. Close your eyes. Don't look at that right now. Focus on this game. If they can get to 3-3, I think it'll maybe start to build up some momentum. This team, Thielen talks about it regularly. They need to find some momentum. They haven't been able to do that. And quite frankly, they need it for home games too, because like I said, US Bank Stadium, there have been back-to-back weeks now where I've witnessed it 2 weeks ago, and I saw tweets about it last week. People are starting to throw paper airplanes from the upper deck. Like, that's how bored they are of this football team. Bring some excitement. Let this offense be what we know it can be. And I think if you do that and it pairs up, maybe we see it, just maybe the Vikings offense and their defense can both play complementary football for what seems like the very first time in the Kirk Cousins era.
Yeah, and it would be really nice for that to happen. There's another part of complementary football. There's a third aspect to football. I can't remember what it is, though. So
we forget about that.
But legitimately, what you're saying is we talked about it before the show, and you said we have been saying it, and it's your take. I mean, it's you on a silver platter, just talking about how either the defense gives up 9 or it gives up 50. Oh, the offense scores 9 or it scores 50. Though, like, there doesn't seem. And I said Seattle this year was a game where it was like, hey, the offense looked good, defense got its stuff together. Good game. We won it. But other than that, like you said, we'll either win in these super goody defensive battles or we'll in shootouts. And it never seems like both sides can come together. Hopefully they can. I'm just going to say this, and this is nothing to do with the Carolina game, because I like that our matchups were both the Vikings defense, because I'm still the most concerned about that than I am the offense. I think the offense is just too talented to not have some, eventually Kubiak will call a pass and Jefferson or Thielen will make a play, or KJ Osborne or whoever it may be. So eventually I think that offense is almost too good to coach to like just being terrible. So the defense is what I'm the most concerned about. But the Vikings fans, and this is in Carolina, this game, so it's not a factor here, but like we're going to come back to US Bank Stadium again. Vikings fans are booing a lot. Like they're booing this team off the field a lot. And it's because of coaching decisions like running the ball on 3rd and 5, going 3 and out, 8 drives in a row, having the ball with like almost 50 seconds left, I think, 2 timeouts, and you run the ball straight up the middle with your backup running back instead of whenever your wide receiver already has 100 yards on the day, mind you. Yeah, and you decide, we'll take the 7 point, we'll tuck it away and we'll take it to halftime and we'll keep these 2 timeouts because, that's how it goes. So
can I speak on that aspect? Because we didn't really get into that. No, not necessarily the booing. This conservativeness that they're playing with, like the 37 seconds and 2 timeouts. You look at me in the face and tell me how many teams in the National Football League pull that same stunt that the Vikings did there. Because if you're a team that does that, quite frankly, you have no reason to be in the same conversation with the teams like the Arizona Cardinals, the Buffalo Bills, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There's no reason for the Vikings or their fan base to believe they should even be anywhere near like deep playoff run contenders, because teams that are good, we saw it with the Buffalo Bills on Monday night or Sunday Night Football. They keep the foot on the gas. Josh Allen, if his coach called that and said, hey, just run the ball out, I don't think Josh Allen would be okay with that. So there's multiple layers to this. If it's a Kubiak thing, if it's a Zimmer thing, I would love to see Kirk Cousins go out there, shake the hell out of Mike Zimmer again and say, you know what? I am throwing this ball. I don't care what Clint says in my headset. I'm going to audible out of this, and we're going to keep the foot on the gas, because the Vikings don't do that. And that is the era of the NFL that we are in right now. Good teams do that. Good teams play good football on the offensive side of the ball. Justin Herbert, another guy, he's not doing that.
No,
the Vikings, they are doing that. And right now, I think that's one of their biggest limitations. And that's why they're not deep playoff contenders, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it was. And Zimmer tried to rectify it by saying like, oh, we wanted to see if he got, 7-8 yards there, then we would have, called a timeout. Why not throw the ball, and instead of getting 7-8 yards, wasting a timeout, and then basically just stouting the drive? It's like, you get a 5-yard penalty basically on the defense. So, okay, here we go. You're basically just wasting seconds and a timeout. Throw the ball, try and get 20 or 30, and then burn a timeout. And now all of a sudden you're talking about, hey, one more play and we're in field goal range. One more good play that we can get out of bounds on. We can take a couple shots at the end zone and we're already in field goal range. It's asinine. I try not to use the word asinine because I feel like I use it a lot when I'm talking football, specifically the Vikings offense. It's terrible, man. And if the worst thing that can happen to us, I think, on Sunday is we get a 7 or 10 point lead because we're running the ball. We're aggressively running the ball because there is no foot on the gas. This team stays in neutral, it feels like. And hopefully Sunday we're on a hill and we can be in neutral and go down the hill and pick up steam and score a bunch of points. But there's no gas pedal. There is no, we're up by 10. Let's go up by 17, put the game away, throw the backups in, let Teddy Bridgewater come in like he did in 2017 when we blew the Bengals out. Like, there is none of that nowadays. Nowadays, it's like, okay, 7 points. We're good. 10 points with 3 minutes left in the game. We're fine. We'll kick this we'll kick this field goal. Or whatever, and then we'll run the ball 3 times in a row and let Detroit strip us and get a touchdown. It's a whole thing. It's a whole point of contention with Vikings fans right now is how conservative the play calling has been. But Yeah, I can't get over this Detroit game. I really can't. It's so frustrating to me. And I finally got over the Browns game, and then we do that in Detroit. But going into game balls for Carolina, because we keep going back. We keep trying to go backwards and complain about that Detroit game, and rightfully so. But going into game balls, do you know who has what? I know I just gave the game ball to defense, but
It doesn't matter. You go first and you can call it. It doesn't matter to me.
I'll go offense because I'm complaining about the offense, and I think this is a week where I like what I'm seeing out of Cousins. I know I said a couple weeks ago his passion is manufactured, and he has to it's not natural. Man, you don't grab your head coach by the scruff of his shirt and yank him in like that if you're not a little fired up. I think because I think he knows if this year doesn't work, he's done in Minnesota and he's going to have to leave and go find a home somewhere else, and then he's going to have to learn new offense, blah, blah, blah. So I think he wants this game. I'm giving my preemptive game ball to Cousins because I think he's going to come out, and I do think there's going to be fire, and I think I would like to think that he's going to be in Clint's ear and Zimmer's ear saying, put the ball in my hands, man. You pay me too much money to have me be handoff guy and occasional quick slant guy. Let me drop back, give me max protection, and let me throw the ball to Thielen or Jefferson. One of them's going to get open eventually if you guys can protect me long enough. Let me do my thing, man. Let me go back there and sling it. So I think this is a big game from Kirk Cousins this week. I'm thinking 350 yards, 3 touchdowns, huge performance from him. And unfortunately, the reason for that is because every time we score a touchdown, Carolina then immediately goes and scores one of their own. Because in my opinion, McCaffrey's playing because this might be a must-win game for them. But defense is what I've given you this week. So, Jack, on the defensive side of the ball, who are you going with?
Yeah, I want to go with one of the corners because I think they're going to need to make a big play, but we haven't seen that yet. I've picked Patrick Peterson already this season, I know, and he didn't do much. I don't know if he's really been given the opportunity to do too much because it really seems like they're avoiding his side of the field. But this seems it's going against what I think both of us usually tend to do, and we're both kind of going with someone that is not, I shouldn't say obvious because they're never obvious. Someone can always come out of nowhere and get a game ball. But on defense, I don't think I've picked him this year. I probably did at some point last year. But if the Vikings are gonna get Sam Darnold to be seeing ghosts, I think this player has to be a big portion of that. I'm going with Harrison Smith. I'm calling right now. Harrison Smith finds his hands on the ball at least once with an interception. Maybe, just maybe, we see a defensive touchdown this year. It's always fun seeing Harry run with the ball in his hands. I'm calling an interception at the very least, maybe a defensive touchdown. I think that comes at the hands of Harrison Smith. I think that could be a difference maker in this football game. I think you're going to need to force at least 1 to 2 turnovers if you want to be in the driver's seat of this game. No one better to do that than Harrison Smith. He's been so good for this team for so long. He got his contract extension. He's going to finish his career here in Minnesota. Go make a difference and get this team to 3-3.
Yeah, you almost took the words out of my mouth because Smith would have been my second pick for a defensive game ball. Number 1 is obviously Bashaud Breeland-Johnson because that's the new – I'm about to get a T-shirt. Custom jersey that says Bashaud Breeland-Johnson on the back of it, and it's going to be number 1 or something. But, yeah, I like it. I like it, man. But, God, that's honestly the Bashaud Breeland story is probably going to be the one that I remember the most from this season, unfortunately, because it's shaping up to be a pretty forgettable one. But I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do it. I think next week, Jack, we're going to treat ourselves. Win or lose, we're going into the bye week. So who cares what we talk about? We'll talk a little bit about Carolina next week. But next week, I think it's important. Win, lose, or draw against Carolina. Let's talk some quarterbacks, man. Let's talk about college quarterbacks. But there's a caveat here. I want you to talk about quarterbacks because I'm still a Kellen Mond believer. I want to talk about head coaches because I'm 100% in on talking about head coaches. So I think you bring your 3 best quarterbacks. I'll bring my 3 best head coaching candidates. We'll present our argument going into the bye week as to what this team should look like. maybe 2 or 3 years from now with a new QB and a new head coach. Hopefully, there's no paper airplanes in U.S. Bank Stadium being thrown, or the boo birds don't come out. But I think that sounds like a fun show next week, as almost a pick me up for us, because it's hard to come on here and be like, I think the Vikings are gonna win, and then they lose, and we say, oh man, they lost. Now I'm angry about that. So let's try doing that. And spoiler alert, I'm going to wear this joke into the ground within 2 weeks, but my number one head coaching candidate is Bashad Breelands Johnson. But yeah, I think I'm good on this game. Well, I guess we should do skull predictions, and then so I'll give mine really quick, and then I'll let you give yours, and combine that with kind of getting us hyped for the game. I'm going with the Vikings this week. With Christian McCaffrey's health being up, it almost is unfair to have to pick a skull in this game, just not knowing who's going to be healthy for it. But I do think that the Vikings, I say this every now and again, they have their back against the wall, so they're going to be coming out swinging. I think Zimmer's not in a good mood, and I hope he still has that intensity and that, toughness to him that he can get his teams to respond to. So I hope he, at some point it has to be realized that his job is on the line, so maybe he should stop playing 21st century football. And then his defense this team's too talented to be bad, isn't it? I mean, it just is. Like, it's just too talented to be bad. So I think this is one of those games that we win. I think it's close. Unfortunately, I would love a blowout. I'm gonna go 28-27 Vikings. I'm telling you, like, down to the wire, Kirk Cousins last second touchdown or something to win the game. And then we missed the PAT. It was 22-27, and we scored the touchdown and missed the PAT. That's how it goes. But I want to predict a blowout at some point, and I don't think I will for the rest of the season, because the Vikings just don't blow anybody out with the way they're playing. So, Jack, who do you got? Why do you got them that way? And then send the viewers home happy with a skull.
Yeah, I think the Vikings come out on top of this one too. I have, I guess I shouldn't say a bunch of family. My little brother is in Virginia, stationed out there in the Navy, and he's making the trip down to Charlotte this weekend. So he's going to be enjoying himself out there. So hopefully he can see a more entertaining game than you and I have watched the last couple of weeks. But yeah, I think the Vikings are going to come out on top, and I don't think it's going to be anywhere near a shootout. Now that I say that, it's going to be like 48-43 or something along those lines. But it is a little tough not knowing with Christian McCaffrey. Is he going to play? Is he not going to play? Because if he plays, he's going to expose this Vikings run defense. And I'm going to keep saying that week over week over week until Mike Zimmer and his defense can prove me wrong, because I haven't been proved wrong. He still has faith. He's still talking about seeing good things along his defense and his front four, his front seven, making good plays in the run game. He said there was a couple plays where guys kind of overcorrected themselves, or they shot through a gap too quick and thought they could get to the running back, and they were a little bit too late, or they were a little bit too quick, and it kind of plays like that, and then it turns into a chunk run play for 15 yards. Like, stuff like that kills a defense, and that can't happen. You get Anthony Barr back. Hopefully he's in better – I shouldn't say back. He didn't practice today. But if Anthony Barr goes, Eric Kendricks goes, you got to get Michael Pierce back at some point. That might not be this week, but Delvin Tomlinson, you have to hope those guys can get some sort of push, and you can let those two linebackers kind of run freely. I think the Vikings win. I think it's a closer game. I think not as close as you, but I'm going to keep it within a field goal to make things interesting. I'm going to say 23-20. The Vikings come out on top. I just think, like you said, I agree with you. Their backs are against the wall. They go to 2-4 before that stretch. The hope for this team is gone. The fan base, the life is sucked out of this fan base. That's when the rumors start happening. That's when you're going to see Mike Zimmer's name. I think he dropped down to like the 7th or 8th coach now for betting odds of getting fired first. That's where it creeps back up into the 3 or 4 range. If they lose this game, they can't lose this game. The Wilfs are not going to be happy. The Wilfs probably aren't happy already, but if they lose this game, things are going to start to get blown up. And I don't know. I just have a weird feeling about it. It's the most Vikings way for them to lay a complete dud against Detroit, lay a complete dud against Cleveland, and then come out against a team that kind of has turned their perspective around. They're better than what people were giving them credit for. But I still think the Vikings are a better football team than the Carolina Panthers, especially with all the injuries that they have. Hopefully a lot of those guys can play. But instead of doing this big whole hoorah type thing, I'm going to just talk about how I'm jacked up for next week's show now, because we get to talk about quarterbacks, head coaches. There's a lot of good quarterbacks that it's not really quite like the 2020 class or even the 2021 class. There's not like a guy where it's like, this is the guy you draft. One of my favorite players in college football, most entertaining player to watch, in my opinion, right now, Matt Corral plays at Ole Miss. Tune into that game on Saturday, and you will find out why. He is extremely entertaining. I'm sure I will probably be able to talk about him for 30 to 45 minutes of the show, of the hour next week, or however long we go. But there's some other guys out there. I'm sure Jordan's going to want to talk about Desmond Ridder, his guy out there in Cincinnati. So
Go Cats. Number 3 in the country, by the way.
Yes, they are. So if you would have told me that it was Georgia, Iowa, and Cincinnati as the top 3 teams, like, what is it, 6-7 weeks into the season, I probably would have laughed in your face.
I can't believe, man. I don't want to interrupt you. I can't believe they booted Bama out of the top 4 for losing to A&M. But God, that's crazy.
That game was very entertaining to watch. I was out at a bar with some friends. And
I was also out at a bar.
We went nuts watching A&M make that field goal because I can never pull for Alabama.
Look, we've done this show for 2 years. We're really good at staying on topic. Did you see the footage of his family watching the kick go in? Oh, my God.
If you haven't seen that, go watch that because that was cool.
It's like his girlfriend and like his parents and like they go nuts and his girlfriend goes nuts. And then I saw somebody, the comment on it was like, this guy's going to be a father in like 9 months now because like, that's the biggest moment of this kid's life. So honorable mention, Texas A&M. Go. Are they the Aggies? Is that who they are? Yeah, go Aggies.
And Kellen Mond, if you're following him, was all for it. He was live tweeting the game. He was all over Instagram about it. But
see, that's why we're so good. We're able to we talk about college football, and you just throw that line out and bring in the Kellen Mond went there. So there you go.
I was a huge Johnny Manziel guy. I probably shouldn't say that. But in college, I was a huge Johnny. I loved similar. I enjoy watching Matt Corral in a similar manner that I liked watching Zach Wilson, liked watching Johnny Manziel. They have a different style, and I'm not talking about Johnny Manziel off the field. I'm talking about Johnny Manziel when he was good and playing at Texas A&M. Like, it was just entertaining, and that's what I've been wanting to watch this year. That's why I've been so drawn in, and you'll hear a lot of this next week. That's why I do not give 2 craps about Ole Miss football. But my Lord, I love watching entertaining football, and I haven't been able to do that on Sundays yet this year. So Saturdays, I've been trying to watch as much college football as possible. Do the same this weekend. Spencer Rattler is a name that is very, very quickly dropping down draft boards after getting benched last weekend. We'll have a couple other guys. Carson Strong out of Nevada. There's a few quarterbacks that it's a weird year. Like I said, I really don't know what direction it's going to go in the draft this year, but there's some fun prospects nevertheless to talk about. So make sure you tune in next week. Hopefully it's after a Vikings win, because I think Jordan and I are both, for some odd reason, we're both still feeling fairly optimistic going into this game after we've watched two of the most brutal games that I've watched in recent memory. So tune in next week. It'll be a fun show. Hopefully we're in a little bit of a brighter mood for you. And most importantly, Skol as always.